So almost exactly 1 year ago today, I was still living in Austin, and my car got into sort of an accident. It was parked, yes, sort of. And it was my car, not me, okay? It was parked in a rather small parking lot of the church that I worked at, and there was a preschool in this church. So about 3 times a day, this parking lot was absolutely packed with parents that were picking up and dropping off their kids. So I was sitting in my office when one of our secretaries brought this woman to my door, someone that I had never met before, and she asked me if I was the owner of a little red car. I stood up, I said yes, and my stomach was a little bit uneasy at this point because I figured whatever was coming next was just not going to be any good. And she told me that she had kind of hit my car. So,
again, kind of?
Kind of, yes, this is what she said to me. So I turned around and I looked out my office window because it looked right into the parking lot, and I saw a very large pickup truck that had pulled into the parking spot next to me. But they overestimated the turn. The truck was pulled into the spot all of the way, and the entire length of the truck was up against my car. It was touching on top of my car. My heart started beating really super fast, and I just kind of wanted to start yelling, but I knew that I should probably had to keep my composure. So I said, let's go take a look. I was really, really mad at this point. I couldn't understand why she wouldn't stop the truck before it caused further damage by pulling further in. I didn't understand how she could have missed that turn by so much, and I couldn't understand why she chose that particular spot to park in. It was probably the only open one, but I didn't understand. And she explained to me that she had never driven a pickup truck before, but she borrowed it so that she could come and pick up her son. And she was apologizing profusely. And I really didn't want to be mad at her because I knew that it was an accident, but I couldn't help it. To help keep my calm on the way out of the doors of the church, I grabbed one of my coworkers for mental and emotional support. And I had a really hard time even talking because I was just in absolute disbelief. Why was this happening to me? At this point, I had been offered this job here at Lands. I had 2 weeks left in Austin, and I was in the process of moving. I didn't have time to deal with car problems. I needed my car to move myself here to Zumbrota. And moving is kind of expensive sometimes, and I had no idea how much this was going to set me back. I knew that I had insurance, but my car wasn't worth that much. And what if she didn't have any insurance? And why did it have to happen at the very most hectic and busy time of the year? Also, I liked my car. I liked my car a lot. And shopping for used vehicles is really time-consuming and stressful, and I just couldn't imagine trying to find a new car while switching jobs, while moving. I was so mad. But what do you do? What do you do now? All right, I had to think clearly and logically. All right, I needed her insurance information. We had to get the cars out of this situation. Now, I had no idea how to move either car without causing further damage. So I calmly called the police department. And at one point in this, again, very tiny parking lot, there were 3 police cars and a tow truck. Did I mention it was a Wednesday? There were a lot of people around, a lot of people that knew me, all right? And I had to hold it together, when really I just wanted to run away and punch something. That's how I felt. In the end, she had insurance. She covered the damage, and the truth was that the damage was actually not that bad. The doors still worked, and I could still drive the car. I was really mad at the driver, but more than that, I was just mad that such a thing like that would happen right now in my life. I was mad at God. And the truth, when I look back, is that when it was all said and done, everything happened as well as it could have happened. There's minor damage. I could still drive the car. Insurance took care of it. All in all, I couldn't complain much as to how it turned out. But in no way does that mean that I was not red in the face, steaming out the ears mad. I just didn't let that out. I didn't let that show. But just plain being angry isn't good. All right, letting my anger show by yelling at the driver and kicking her truck would not have been good either, even if it was a little tempting. Anger happens, and it happens sometimes when we least expect it, like when you're working in your office minding your own business. And the truth is that anger is actually a perfectly healthy and necessary emotion. When someone runs into your car, you will get angry. When an event triggers anger in us, within about a quarter of a second, our brain is already responding. The amygdala, which is the little part in the middle of your brain, is what controls our emotions. Within a quarter of a second, our emotions are going, all right? And that's what makes us want to punch back when someone hits you, okay? Or, kick the truck that ran into you, or to yell at someone. Fortunately, at that same time, blood is starting to flow to your frontal lobe, the front left part of your brain, and that's the part that influences your reasoning. So after another second and a half or so, our brain is realizing that punching, kicking, or yelling is probably not going to help. So when you hear people tell you to count to 10 when you're angry, that's why. So just like pain is a signal to our bodies that something is wrong, anger is kind of a signal to us that something's wrong and something needs to be done. When things don't go our way, or the way we planned, or things surprise us, anger happens. Now in the sport of NASCAR, or any car racing really, they have pit lanes built into these tracks, because inevitably a driver is going to need to make a pit stop. Forgive me, I don't know too much about NASCAR racing.
They turn left.
Thank you. So pit stops are going to happen. Pit stops actually have to happen. Right? They need to refuel their cars. They need to change tires or whatever else you're going to have to do. Right? If the driver does not let the pit stop happen, much worse things can occur. Right? They could run out of gas. You could wear your tires down so far that you don't have traction, or something else that I'm not aware of. All right? Something could cause a crash. But making pit stops does not mean that nothing bad is ever going to happen, because we know that there are still crashes that occur and there are problems that can't always be fixed. Also, sometimes it might be difficult for a driver to actually choose to pull off into the pit lane. They don't want to sacrifice more time, or they think that they can tough it out themselves. I don't watch a lot of races, but I saw a movie about this. It was very dramatic, right? But if you don't take your pit stops, the driver and the car are inevitably going to be in worse shape. Pit stops have to happen when you're racing cars, just as anger has to happen in life. Just as worn tire tread does not just disappear, our anger does not just disappear because we don't do anything with it. And contrary to popular belief, anger is not easily hidden. It's not easily hidden from the world around us, and it is absolutely not hidden from God. There was this movie that was released more than a year ago now, but it's still wildly popular. The movie Frozen. Some of you might know it. I've only seen it once, but as I watched today's movie and I thought about what it means to be angry, the song Let It Go got into my head. Elsa is the older of the sisters and the one with these magical powers. Now early in the movie, she accidentally hurts her sister Anna with these powers. So what is her solution? To hide it. Yes. Alright, so she locks herself in her bedroom. She's not happy. She got a pretty dress on and a vacation. Something like that. And then you've got Anna up here in the hallway, wanting to build a snowman. But she doesn't want to. That's the best I can do. So as a queen, Elsa has locked herself into the room, locked herself into the castle, and she keeps her gloves on to protect her powers, all right? She believes that she is protecting her sister. She believes that she's also protecting the kingdom of Arendelle by hiding and doing this. For years, she has almost no relationship with her sister. She won't build a snowman with her, and eventually, people do come into the castle. And Elsa comes out, and she's wearing her gloves, and she's keeping her distance. But the powers, her magical powers, still come out. And they come out in these big bursts. And it hurts people. She didn't mean to. In fact, that's exactly what she was trying to avoid, was hurting people. But she couldn't keep it contained. So when it did emerge, it was out of her control. Hiding was not a good solution. If we think we can hide our anger from other people or from God himself, we are only kidding ourselves. So how do we effectively deal with our anger? Well, at the end of the movie Frozen, Elsa has figured out how to have control over her powers, and she's able to use them for the good of everyone. She had to accept it, and she tried a couple of ways that didn't work before she would found success. Now, there are healthy and productive ways to be angry, and there are not so healthy and productive ways to be angry. Now, has anyone in this room ever once in your life shaken up a can of pop and tried to give it to someone else? Yeah. Come on. Let's see that. Has anyone ever been successful? Because I haven't. Nobody. I thought it was the funniest thing when I was a kid, but I'm not very sneaky, so no one ever did it. Okay, so carbonation builds up inside of the can, and there are different ways that it emerges, right? So in general, there are 3 ways that humans express our anger. The first one is anger in. Okay, so we've got our shaken up can of soda. And in my case, nobody opens it. Alright, so it's just sitting there. And it looks the same, right? But it's been shaken and those bubbles are inside. And the truth is that when you do open it, eventually, it's going to be flat. And the truth is that while it looks the same, if you touch a can that has just been shaken really hard, it's actually firmer. Okay. So it looks the same, but it's different. It acts different. All right? It feels different. It behaves different. The second way that we humans express our anger is anger out, okay, or aggression, shown through rage. This can be physical or emotional. So yelling or kicking or whatever it is. So in this case, our can of pop that has been shaken is open, and we all know what happens. We get a geyser of sugary, syrupy mess everywhere. And sometimes it's funny if you weren't in the line of fire. So that's the second way. The third way that our anger can be expressed is through anger control. Alright? In this case, we have our can of shaken pop. Soda, whatever you want to call it. Alright? Now I've never tried this, so I'm not telling you to go out and try this, or go outside and try it. If you shake a can of pop, science says that if you tap it, on the side in at least like 6 spots, I think they said, and you turn it around so that you hit a bunch of different sides of the can, and then you open it, there is no explosion. You have successfully bumped the bubbles off of the side, and I can't begin to explain to you why that is. But the YouTube video did it, so it must be true, right? Okay. So that's one way we can control our anger, all right? So when we're angry at God, how do we successfully not erupt all over, but also just not sit there like that unopened can of pop? And I don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all deal here. I think that each situation and each person is going to have a little bit of a different answer. Counting to 10 might be a really good place for many of us to start. For me, when I'm angry, my first choice is to go to the batting cages. I find that swinging a softball bat just makes me feel And we need to release that emotional response that we have, right? Which could mean yelling or shedding a few tears and talking it out with God, which can happen out loud. We can have those conversations, but it can also be a conversation on paper or in your head, or maybe it means picking up your guitar. Maybe it means going out for a run. Maybe it means turning up your music. Talking to God does not have to mean you get down on your knees and fold your hands properly, right? It means letting him in on whatever it is that you are going through. Ultimately, controlling our anger and going to God with it would make a stronger relationship between the two of us. God created us to be these passionate, emotional, free-willed people, and he can take whatever we throw at him. Now, it doesn't mean that we should be testing him on this, but it means that we find forgiveness in his love. And if you think about times that you have been angry, it's often because it is something or someone that you care about. When I got angry about the car accident, it was because that car was very important to me. We get angry with God because we care. If we never got angry at God, what would that say about our relationship with him? Of course, God sees and knows everything, so it's the point of telling him. Because he loves us and he wants to be in a relationship with us. And he wants us to choose to go to him and to choose to open up. So we have this God up here in the clouds, right? And it's not like he's watching us on television and like yelling at the screen, like, oh, Ashley, you should do that. Oh, and then he turns it off and he goes to bed at night. That's not how it works, all right? And it's not like we are his puppets or his little Lego toys and he's just playing with us and telling us what to do, right? No, that's not how God works. We're down here, God's up there, right? And he's watching us and he sees everything, but there's this line of communication between us, all right? Now, this is a phone that has a wire on it, so this is really old school, but we have this line of communication, and God wants that to be open. He wants us to use that to go to him and to talk to him. And by inviting God into how we're feeling, even if it's anger, we are choosing to make that pit stop, to take care of our relationships, to take care of ourselves. We're opening that door. We're not hiding. And we're not exploding and making a mess. So it is okay